Greetings, Dan Halligan with Kayenta Games with a major announcement. I'm very excited with this video to launch two completely new modes of playing Obsession. A cooperative mode and a solo mode that uses a dynamic opponent to compete against. No more cards with some statistics we're trying to beat, but it's almost like a living, breathing opponent that is really difficult. It's actually the same AI that came from the cooperative game, and these aren't variants. These are not just little changes to meet your individual playing style. These could have launched as their own Kickstarter without ever having the competitive version of Obsession that we play. So I'm really excited. The other real bonus is that you don't spend an additional nickel. There's going to be a print and play new AI card, which will eventually become a real card. And otherwise, everything that's in your box, you've got these two new ways of playing, and they're a significant enhancement to the game. First of all, I'm going to say that I'm not going to try to edit or polish this video. It's going to be a stream of consciousness. I've been trying to get this out against a tight schedule because I feel this is going to really revolutionize the game for some people that just prefer co-op games. And also for those solo players that are starting to burn through the experience of playing against those family cards. So I wanted to get this out here. And so I'm not going to slow this down by trying to make it super professional. You and I are just going to talk. The second thing I want to mention is that I need all of you to be my play testers. I've got a couple of things in my life that have limited my ability to do the kind of rigorous play testing that I should be doing. That it took me years to do with the first version of Obsession. And that is, my kids are all in college. I used to use my kids to play test a ton. And secondly is that I've got some other things going on in my life that's really demanding a lot of my time. So my gaming has declined a little bit. But there's one thing I've learned, because I'm a first-time designer. I made a lot of mistakes. I had you out there play testing when you got the game. And you uncovered all kinds of things I wish I knew before I launched the game. So I've learned from that, and I want you to know this is a sandbox. I have the instructions and the backstory written up in a Microsoft Word document, not a formal document that's all done, because I'm going to be taking all the feedback I can get to find out the tweaks and the improvements we want to make to this cooperative mode and to this dynamic solo mode. So I wanted to make those 2 points. So why am I here? Why did I decide to add some things to the world of Obsession? Well, I'm a first-time designer. I don't expect everybody to love the game, and so when someone doesn't like the luck that I use to try to be thematic, all Victorian writing has got just the most ridiculous things happening all the time that crash in from the outside world. Some people didn't like the luck and the objective cards and this, and I'm fine with all that. That's water off my back. But one criticism has bothered me, and that is that we play the game quite frequently, particularly when you play it a lot, with your head down. I'm not showing a bald spot, am I? With your head down. And isn't it weird that a game that is all about high society, about social interaction and social interplay, has an antisocial way of playing? That to me is a disconnect. And so one thing I noticed with the core mechanic of Obsession, and the reason we have our head down, which is managing the servants, the activity, and the guests, which is a marvelous puzzle. But I've noticed that takes variants very well. There's dozens of variants that people are playing and very happy with those variants. So I said to myself, well, I'm going to challenge myself. How do I get social interaction going on with the other players? And that's where the cooperative mode was born. In the cooperative mode, not only is social interaction a feature, you have to do it and do it well. You're going to be sharing servants. Your family's going to be going to other families' activities. Your close friends may accompany you to those activities. You can loan small amount, actually gift small amounts of money, 100, 200 pounds, to help that other family make a renovation that's going to be key to them. You're going to share objectives in a pool. And each person in the cooperative group is going to decide, maybe I'm going after service, maybe I'm going after the high-end groups, which will be difficult to get. But again, I'm going to have my fellow human players, not stealing and snatching key improvements from me. Maybe those are more reachable. All of this is going to be against an opponent. And I've got the backstory written. I don't want to make this video too long. But that opponent is, if anybody's watched Poldark, there's George Warlegan. The Warlegans are sort of a common mercantile family from a humble background, or he's from a humble background, and he feels slighted by the people who are titled, and he's so trying to get into Parliament and get into high society, and he never will fit. Well, there's been an alliance formed between one of those families. I've titled them the Sneyds, S-N-E-Y-D-S, which I picked out of Victorian literature because it's a great evil name. And they're partnering with one of the 5 families, and they're financing an unseemly massive renovation of their estate. That family is gossiping and trying to tear down and prejudice the Fairchilds against the good families, the human players, and that's the component we're competing against. The mechanism for that component building itself up and how you compete against it is wonderful. Ponsonby's would be an example of this alliance, because here we're looking at the AI, the dynamic AI that is going to be who the human players are going to be competing against. And the reason for this video is I want to show you the elegance of how this AI works, because this also forms the basis for playing a solo opponent that will be different absolutely every time and can be very difficult to beat. So let me just indicate here what you see. Ignore the builder's market up here. What you see is shortly after we've done setup. So the way that we set up this AI competitive player for the cooperative version is, I'll take this flower room out for now. This is what it would look like, which is the 5 starting tiles all flipped to the rose side and the servants' hall. One of the characteristics of this family is that they gossip a lot. So they start out taking reputation away from the cooperative families that are playing against this AI. So that's at work from the very get-go. It's a very tough thing to overcome, but you can overcome it. And then everything that got flipped, you got the benefit that was on the front side. So here, when it gets to the village fair, they will get the reputation and the money. They have 2 additional servants that came from a butler's room usage. They have 1 prestige guest, which came from the front side of the gazebo. They have 3 reputation for the front side of that front parlor. And they have 300 pounds in their Ponsonby, so they now have 600 pounds. Forgive me for using the viticulture coins. That's all I ever use with my game. And what you see here is you see a prestige guest tableau being developed. And the reason that I made their first purchase being the flower room, so the first purchase that came for the Ponsonby family, for the AI, was the flower room. They immediately, every time you purchase from the market, you get the front side benefit, and then you flip it and place it into the organizer. And you know that when we're doing courtship, we're competing against the totals that are related, or that are in each category. We're playing a closed courtship, so they now have 5 points in the estate category. You know that for season 1, that's awful tough right there to win the courtship against the estate theme if it comes up. This prestige guest tableau is treated differently than the normal deck. So the only thing we see from the normal deck, so this is the 4 family cards and the 2 starter guests, is we deal out after shuffling them to see if the heir or the young lady comes up, and that becomes the courtship focus of the Ponsonby family. So the goal of the Ponsonby family is to wed Lady Margaret Carlo to Charles Fairchild. So that is the courtship objective, and that stays up there. If this AI wins a courtship, then Charles Fairchild would come over for that courtship, and all the favors would be enjoyed for those two cards. And then Charles would stay here for the duration of that courtship season. So that's the reason that card is up. These other cards are not accessed or used for this AI. When prestige guests are acquired, they are put in a tableau, and as this player accumulates reputation, they will start climbing levels. And when they hit, for example, level 4, at any time that they hit level 4, this card is pulled from the tableau, those benefits are enjoyed, and then this card is placed underneath that deck for endgame scoring. But until you get to the level of reputation, these cards are accumulated in a tableau. And as that reputation climbs, it will trigger the favors that are on these cards. And here's an example where another prestige guest is invited. If that prestige guest happened to be 4 or 3, those favors would trigger. So you can get a chain reaction, which is interesting. But the human players are going to be actively trying to suppress the rise in that reputation, because there's only certain ways that the reputation can rise for the AI. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I want to go ahead and run like 2-3 turns without regard for what the human players are doing, just so you can see how this AI functions. So each turn, the AI has a reminder tile to tell it about the servants' hall. There's a little mechanism. The human player with the highest reputation would then lose a point of reputation. And there's one exception in there, but for the sake of this discussion, they would go ahead and gossip away 1 reputation, and the Ponsonby family reputation would increase by 1. So you can see on the screen the AI card that will be print and play until I can get a real copy in people's hands. And that AI card will dictate how the Ponsonbys, the AI player, accesses the builder market. So we roll the dice, and we have a 13. And if you look at the AI card, that means position 4 would be taken by the Ponsonby family. They immediately get that benefit on the front side. That's 5 reputation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're now level 2. And this gets flipped. And now look at their dominant position as it relates to prestige. Now you may be saying to yourself right now, how the hell do you beat this dynamic opponent? We came within a couple of points. If we had won the courtship last night, we would have won the game. And it is possible. You really start out behind, and then you learn how to close the gap. But notice, this is the primary way the reputation is accessed by this player, which is the prestige tiles. So there has to be somewhat of a militant attack of prestige tiles by the human players to manage this reputation. Let's say we come to another turn and we roll and we get 16. We look at the card, and 16 is position 6. The butler's pantry would now come. That's going to be off the end of the table there, but that would go there. And then we would need, hold on while I run to the box, and an under butler would be added. That's only going to be used for endgame scoring, but that's 2 points right there, and it may achieve a secret objective that we don't know about. Let's go ahead and pop another one out here. There's a billiards room. We roll this. We have a 12. We take a look at our AI card. That's position 4 again. Position 4 is going to get the English Garden. So now the English Garden has C2, take 1 of second level guests. It's stated in the instructions that we do not do a C2, take 1 with second level guests. What we do is we just take 1 guest. So if we take a guest here, This would be the incoming guest. She would go in the tableau, and we would start to build this up. So let's take a look at what happens when we actually reach a level of reputation for the prestige guests in our tableau. And then we'll also look at the preferential action on the part of the AI to go after monuments, which become a big focus of this game. So we'll assume we're at the start of a round. We get to Ponsonby, their servants' hall. They steal, oh, I'm going to leave those guys down. They steal a reputation from the player with the highest reputation. This flips to 4. And these two guests now fire. So 400 pounds added to the AI's bank. This is only used for endgame scoring at 1 victory point per 2 pounds. And we have 2 guests, which I get here. This will be the first one. She goes into the tableau. The second is a first level guest, which we don't look at. We just slide it under the deck. It'll be used for endgame scoring if there's an objective card that rewards for casual guests, or if that's one of the second level casual guests that actually have a victory point. So these 2 guests, now that they've activated, they go to the bottom over here. The tableau now has in it only prestige guests that have not triggered because of the reputation. Now the roll for this turn, if you look at the AI up in the screen, you'll see that 3 through 9 is going to preferentially target that monument. We have a 12, so that doesn't happen. So what I'd like to do is give you an idea of some of the cooperative special actions that can take place between the human players as they compete against the malevolent family in Derbyshire. First, let's look at money. This is again all broken down in very clear detail in the instructions, but to give you an overview, you're able to borrow between 1 and 200 pounds from any player or players that's a teammate. So let's say, for example, I wanted to make a purchase of a 600-pound improvement that was really critical for us to try to stop the progress of the malevolent family. We'll say the Asquiths, or who we're competing against here. And I want to get a prestige tile and prevent them from making progress on their reputation. I can get a gift of 100 or 200 pounds from my teammates. It's not repaid, and it would allow me to go ahead and make a purchase where I otherwise wouldn't be able to make the purchase. So that is one way that we cooperate. The second way we cooperate is with service. Let's say, for example, here I wanted to host 2 ladies in the front parlor. Now I've got a couple of challenges here, which is that not only is my housekeeper not available, but I don't have a lady's maid. Now maybe I have a family member, so let's say I do have a family member, but my only other one that I want to play is Lady Mary Russell. I am able to ask another player to borrow their lady's maid and borrow their housekeeper in order to make this event happen. That between friendly families, I can go ahead and loan out my servants for an event that you're trying to host. When those servants are done being used, then those servants are returned to expended service on the player who loaned you those servants. So they do lose the use of them when they get around to their turn, but the players can always be working with each other to make sure that they have the necessary servants. The third way that we can cooperate is, let's say that I want to host this front parlor badly to get to a second level and follow up with a flower room play, but I have only 1 lady. I'm able to ask if any of the other players' family members, female family members in this case, would like to come and play a game of whist at my front parlor. They would then be able to, I'm looking through the pile here, perhaps if Ponsonby were a friendly teammate, the 2 ladies of the house could play a game of whist together. But there's more flexibility than even that. Any guest who qualifies as a starter guest, which is the crown that's beneath the prestige rating, they are able to also go from another player. So let's say Lady Mary Russell here was with another player. Because of the close relationship for these special guests, starter guests could also come over and complete an activity. So in this case, literally that guest, that housekeeper, and that lady's maid all could come from another player, and I could pull off a game of whist with only my lady of the house.